So in 2011, I was teaching a class on truth and reconciliation. And we had been teaching the students, this is a New Haven public school, we had been teaching the students about South Africa. And traditionally, after we did South Africa, we would teach them about Rwanda. And one day I was in class and I was watching a film clip with my students, and the clip was of the UN workers, mostly white, getting on the plane out of Rwanda, and the Tutsi being abandoned on the tarmac. And one of my students objected to this. He said, "Stop the film." I said, "Okay." And he said, "We always see these images and read these books about the oppression of black people. When are we going to look at the oppression of white people?" And I said, I said, if we're talking about truth and reconciliation, there is this place, Northern Ireland, that has this history of war in the streets known as the Troubles. And the student said, "Let's study that." And so we began to teach about the Troubles in Northern Ireland, the 30-year war in the streets between mostly Catholic people who are mostly nationalist and mostly Protestant people who are mostly unionist. They wanted to stay together with the union of the United Kingdom with Northern Ireland. And so we began to study the Troubles, and what happened, because we were the high school that taught about the Troubles in Northern Ireland, when some Belfast teachers wanted to come to America through the organization Facing History and ourselves, they were sent to our school. And all of a sudden, these 3 educators from Belfast came into my classroom. Now, before they came, a woman named Karen Murphy from the organization Facing History and Ourselves said, one of these people, one of these educators from Belfast is a man named Donal, and Donal is a playwright, and you're a playwright, and you should collaborate. And I thought, well, that's a nice sentiment, but I used to be a screenwriter, and for me, collaboration is just like, ugh. It means like me losing all my power as a writer, as producers and directors say it should be like this, it should be like that, and stars say it should be like this, it should be like that, and then me having to write stuff that doesn't really come out of the motivation that made me want to be a writer, and that's why I basically don't write very many screenplays anymore. And I was like, collaboration, but let's see. So Donal, this Belfast writer, came to my classroom, and he was fantastic. You know, the students loved him. He loved my teaching style, which is not very disciplinarian, as you know, Miss Friday. More sort of a, like, what can I do with these students? These students are showing me something, and how can I sort of do it in a fashion that sort of follows the way they're already going? And Donal looked at that, and he's like, it's brilliant. He's like, in Northern Ireland, that's what I do. No one else does that in Northern Ireland. So we got to be good friends, and I brought him into my advisory class where students were teaching classes, and we had a track star student, and she taught us running positions and how to run, and Donal let me beat him in a foot race, and I was like, this guy is great. And then I read some of his writing, and I also really liked that. So I thought, maybe we can collaborate, but how are we going to do that? And Donal went back to Belfast, and I stayed in New Haven. And I started to try and get grants to go to Belfast, to go to Donal's school and continue this friendship we had and this educator relationship. And sometimes we would email each other. He's a big fan of Liverpool FC, and I remember the Liverpool football teams of the late 1970s, as you know. So we had these things in common, and we would talk about stuff, and I would try to get grants and usually fail. And we stayed in touch. And I always in the back of my mind, I was like, what could we possibly write that would be a collaboration? And then I thought, what started to happen, this is in the 2010s, is every summer I would come back to school, and most of the students in my class were African American, and every summer there would be police violence against African Americans. And we would come back to school, and it would have happened again, right? And that would be something that we would bring into class again and again. And I thought, that's the violence that we're really seeing in America. And then in Northern Ireland, they had these 30 years of violence. And maybe there's something in that, a comparison between the violence of the Troubles and the frankly quite racist violence of America. Maybe there's some way there was some way into that. And so I thought of a character. What if there's a character, like I was trying to write from my perspective, I was like, what if there's a character who's white, but his wife is black, his son is mixed race, and he's been killed in a police action. And what if he has a cousin who's Irish who had lost a son in the Troubles, and now, because they share this, he reaches out to his cousin in Northern Ireland. So I gave this very simple premise to Donal, and then I wrote him an email in character as if it was a letter from Tommy, my American character, to Pizzi, his Belfast character. And so mostly I tell stories memorized, but this is the script of that play as we wrote it in those emails. I wrote to Donal, and in my email I wrote, "Lights up on Tommy. He has the look of a boxer, well-muscled body with a face that's taken a few left hooks. He looks like he can protect himself. He also wears his sadness on his sleeve. He couldn't protect his own son. Dear Pizzi, I avoided contacting you for a while after Sean's death because I know everyone in this family sees you as the expert in fucking death, and I have to imagine it bugs the shit out of you. But I need to reach out, man. I need to talk about the stuff that all these well-meaning jack-offs with pity in their eyes can never understand. So I'm going to be one of those annoying fucking assholes who comes to you as if you were the friggin' expert on dashed hopes and dreams and lays my pain at your soccer-playing Irish feet. Forgive me. I keep thinking of Sean at 7, when he started coming out of his shell. Did you know they thought he was autistic when he was a kid? But he had this great specialist working with him at school, a speech therapist, and she saw his true potential. She taught him to say hello to people and to reach out. Fuck it, man, I wish she had taught me when I was in school. And one night, he comes into my bedroom all excited. It's friggin' 2 hours past his bedtime, and he's 7, and he comes in my bedroom and he says, "Daddy, I learned a hard word today, acquiesce." And then he starts trembling with happiness and excitement the way he used to do before the other kids made fun of it, and he stopped. Acquiesce. 7 fucking years old. That speech teacher knew he was a genius. And then I think of him in high school, how the teachers couldn't believe how worldly he was, how full of knowledge. Do you know what it's like on teacher night when you walk in and the teacher looks at you and you can see them thinking, oh, he's got a white father, that figures. Every time. Racism they never knew they had. He's got a white dad, that's why he's so smart. That's why he's not ghetto. Do you want to know how to test how secretly racist your country is? Have a mixed race son. You'll start noticing some stuff. And half my friends used to say white privilege is a lie. Have a fucking mixed race child and then tell me white privilege is a lie, motherfucker. What if I was in the car, Pizzi? What if I was in the car when the cops pulled him over, a white dude who resembled him, a white guy who was obviously his father? Would that have changed everything? This kid's half white, relax. This kid's half white, he mustn't have done it. This kid's half white, make sure you take him in alive. This kid's half white, that can't be a gun. I want to vomit. Every moment I want to fucking vomit. I'm thinking of you, Pizzi. I really am, and I'm so sorry I never wrote you back. Your letter was the best one I ever got. In my mind, he is alive and beautiful. That's what I hear in my head when I look at Sean's old school photos. Your voice, your Irish voice. In my mind, he is alive and beautiful. I think of when we were 9 and you were visiting the States and I taught you to love the Jim Rice era Red Sox. And by the end of the summer, you know all the batting averages in baseball better than I did. And then we were 10 and I visited you and you taught me to love Kenny Dalglish era Liverpool. And soon I knew all the first division goal scoring totals better than you did. It's silly, right? Just trivial sports data. Nothing important. But it was a language that kids communicate in across borders and different cultures. And it made us teachers and it made us friends. I try not to go into Sean's room too often. I try to limit it to 3 visits a week. But sometimes it's late and I can't sleep and I go in there and I just sit on the bed and stare at the wall. His Red Sox banners, his Liverpool scarf, his connection to me, his connection to us. Write back if you want to, but not if you don't. Your cousin Tommy. Lights fade on Tommy, lights rise on Pizzi. And a day later, Donal wrote back and he wrote, Pizzi is just under 6 foot, but actually looks smaller due to how he holds himself. He is hunched and round-shouldered. It is not consciously so, but it is as if he has been slowly curling inward, buffeted by life, seeking protection within himself. His hair is graying, but when he smiles, his whole face and body can open and sparkle. Tommy remains standing in darkness. Tommy, I've started this letter so many times. Even before you wrote to me, I was still talking to you in my head. That way I'm right, and you don't get a word in. I was a bit angry with you for not writing back, but that was just me wanting to hear from you. Then you do write, and it's like someone hammering at my door in the middle of the night, and you know that is never a good thing. I would have preferred a postcard from the Cape, Tommy. For me, the rage you talk about is mostly past. I don't even think I have the energy to vomit. I remember it though, cousin. Be careful with that. I want to tell you that it wouldn't have made a difference if you had been in that car that day, but I guess it would. I watch the news, not the local news. It would have made a difference if I picked Connor up that night and not told him to get the train. Christ, Tommy, my mind is running away from me thinking about Sean. 3 times a week is good. Whatever you need is good and is okay. How's Marcy? There's times I walk into our spare room, the one you guys stayed in when you all came over. Marcy's first time in Ireland. By the way, your mother's kitchen in New Haven doesn't count, nor does Christie's American Irish bar. And it's football, not soccer, fucker. What age was Sean that time? He was lying there asleep between the two of you when I brought in breakfast. You looked like the cat that got the cream, despite your hangover. I really wish I had done things differently with Aisling. No expert there, Tommy. Let's stay in touch a bit better. You are so right about those childhood memories. What was it your ma used to say? Men. Sure, they are always the child they were. Lights fade on Pizzi. He stands in darkness. And with that, it had started up. We started to write together. And Donal gave me this incredible gift of storytelling. He allowed me by proxy to be that greatest of men of letters, the Irish writer. Thank you.